Hey everybody. So I wanted to talk a little bit about codependency, because it's coming up a lot lately. And I think because narcissism is in the conversation a lot, and with narcissism, often we end up talking about codependency and people not realizing they're in a narcissistic codependent relationship. And I think part of the problem is that when we label things, people get nervous. Who wants a label? I mean, it feels very confining, doesn't it? So when I talk to people, I say, let's not focus on the label. Let's focus on the symptoms of the label, because life is not static and we grow. And it's not a label of something that we can't get away from. It's a point of growth. And when we have an enlightenment of ourselves, it's an opportunity to become even more, which is kind of exciting, really, once we have that realization. So, yeah, I don't want to talk as much about narcissism as I want to talk about um, being playing out the symptoms of codependency. One lady said to me, but you're telling me that it sounds codependent, but when I wasn't in a relationship, I was very independent. I hope you were. If you were on your own, I'm hoping you were independent. Um, that doesn't mean that in a relationship, um, um, when when I was single, there were parts of myself that weren't heightened because there was no one but me to heighten them, right? Um, who knew I was going to get upset that the dishes weren't done or something? Not that they aren't, but just who knew that would bother me until I got into a relationship. There are things that I find out about myself. Uh, so, at any rate, I wanted to talk about codependency in a very light-hearted way. I don't really want to get too much into it. I just something that people found helpful, and so I thought I would bring that forward in a video. So in a relationship, if you're putting yourself at the back of the room, and what does that mean? Are you putting yourself and your needs at the back of the room because you're afraid of um, getting into an argument or criticism, or actually afraid of being physically harmed if you don't put yourself at the back of the room? That's a really important question to ask yourself, because safety, emotional and physical and spiritual safety is important. Happiness is important. You're supposed to be, for the most part, happy in a relationship. And putting yourself at the back of the room, how do you lead anybody? How do you lead your children to well-being? How do you teach them about well-being if you're at the back of the room and everybody else's needs are more important? You're not getting the sleep that you need. You're financially looking after everyone. You're when the these days often it takes more than one person. Um, are you being accountable for someone else because they can't be accountable for themselves? Are you working and then coming home and doing everything? And maybe even the children are learning that it's okay not to pick up their laundry. You'll just do it. It's okay. They don't, make themselves a sandwich and they're 15 years old and you're doing that too. And everyone else is doing video games, including your partner, while you're, don't want to make waves and don't want to upset people. That's being at the back of the room. You deserve to be heard. Your voice deserves to be heard. Your feelings deserve to be recognized and validated. And when you demand those boundaries of validation is when you've put yourself at the front of the room. So unpacking what the front of the room means is the opposite of being at the back of the room. You're leading people. You're teaching your children what validating others looks like, what respecting boundaries looks like, what a leader looks like, um, what what's expected, what's respectful. That's being at the front of the room. So that's a good gauge, I think, when am I trying to lead from the back of the room? How is that possible, right? Yeah, so it keeps coming up, and I thought it might be nice to put it out there and sort of think about it. And you can give me your comments, reflections. Happy Saturday.